This is the RTX 5060, one of NVIDIA's latest entry-level cards. Now this comes with their latest features as well. It's also very power efficient. How does this GPU stack up against, say, AMD's last generation mid-tier card like the RX 7800 XT? That one is pure brute force. You gotta get raw performance with RX 7800 XT. However, it does come with power draw and it doesn't have like the latest AMD features like FSR4, although it comes with 16GB of VRAM. If you're going to compare these guys, obviously the RX 7800 XT will win. So if you're going for the RTX 5060, you wanted all those latest feature set from NVIDIA, how much are you going to lose or miss out? That's what we're trying to figure out in here and see if it's actually practical to go for the 5060. We're going to be testing both of these guys in multiple games, 1080p, 1440p, and 4K. Let's start our first game with Arc Raiders low settings, obviously, because we want to see all the other Raiders. The lead isn't that much for the RX 7800 XT. It's only about 17%, and we've fully utilized our GPUs in here. Let's go to our next game, Cyberpunk 2077, and look at that one, boys. We're getting over 100 FPS for both cards, and the RX 7800 XT is about 34% better compared to the 5060. Next game is Oblivion Remastered, and this one's a very VRAM intensive game. Well, it requires a lot of resources in here, and we're getting slightly better results with our RX 7800 XT. This will be interesting when we go up the resolution. Okay, let's go down to massive multiplayer shooters, and we've got Battlefield 6 in here. The RX 7800 XT is just crushing the 5060 in here, 30% lead. Let's try another game, Delta Force. And this one on our walking benchmark, whoa, the RX 7800 XT is definitely showing the 5060 who's the boss around here. And our firing benchmark, it's the same thing, right? 46% better, boys. Wow. How about PUBG? Right, we've got the X11 enhanced API in here, and we're getting still really good FPS for both cards, but the RX 7800 XT is definitely smashing this one at 30% lead. Okay, let's move on to our competitive shooters. We've got Fortnite in here as our first game, and generally NVIDIA cards work better in this scenario, and yes, that's how it is, right? We're getting really good lows with our 5060 compared to the RX 7800 XT, and this is performance mode, the DX12, and these type of games, it is very important that you have consistent frame pacing and frame times. Any inconsistency will make you miss those shots. Another game is Valorant, and we're getting, wow, the 5060 is actually better here compared to the RX 7800 XT. We'll see if this is the same case when we go to 1440p. Let's move down to hero shooters, and we've got Apex Legends in here. We've got a maximum frame rate of 300 FPS in here, and the RX 7800 XT is about slightly better, but has better lows compared to the 5060. Let's go to our static benchmark, and there's not so much difference in here. Marvel Rivals, so look at this one, boys, right? The RX 7800 XT is back to about 30% lead against the 5060. Same thing, we'll see how this one turns out at 1440p. Helldivers 2, and once again RX 7800 XT is leading, but not so much, about 28% on the running benchmark and about 30% again on our stratagem benchmark. They're both good, right? You're getting about 200 FPS on both cards here. Let's go with Battle XL 2. Ooh, the lead of the RX 7800 XT is actually not that high in this one. If you're playing Battle XL2, the 5060 is actually a viable option here against the RX 7800 XT. Next game is World of Tanks. Now we've included this game because we want to see a different game engine, and this type of games NVIDIA cards normally tend to do well, but in this case the RX 7800 XT, which is brute force, continues to soldier on and push the 5060 aside. Okay, let's move up to 1440p now, and at Arc Raiders we've got low settings in here with upscalers on both cards, and look at that one, boys. The RX 7800 XT is just crushing it. Do note, we are using FSR3 in here, so it's not FSR4, so the visual quality will be not so good compared to FSR4, but it's still about 50% lead. And Cyberpunk 2077, ooh, look at the micro stutters with our RX 7800 XT. There is a little bit there, but it's still winning looking in this scenario. Obviously, this is FSR3 against DLSS, like the latest DLSS for the 5060. So generally, you will have better visual quality with the 5060 here. I should have just done like native on the RX 7800 XT, but we missed out on that one this time around. Maybe we'll try that on our future benchmark. Moving on to Oblivion Remastered, and the RX 7800 XT continues its lead here. Now we do have upscalers once again on this game, and yes, look at that one, right? You've got micro stuttering with our 5060, and that's probably because of the VRAM limitation, which we don't have on the RX 7800 XT. Back to Battlefield 6 here, and look at that one, boys. 180 FPS against 120 FPS. So the RX 7800 XT is still crushing on these type of games, and it continues with Delta Force, like 50% better compared to the 5060 on a walking benchmark. On a firing benchmark, it's the same thing, 45% better against the 5060. And here we have PUBG still maintaining that lead. RX 7800 XT still crushing the 5060 here. Going back to competitive shooters now, we've got Fortnite Performance Mode, DX12 at 1440p, and it's the same thing. So the RTX 5060 still has better lows in here, and at competitive games, you definitely need that consistency in your frame. So I would say that this one goes to the 5060. Let's see how it goes in Valorant, and look at that one, right? So we're getting about like slight lead here with our RX 7800 XT. It's not bad. Let's go back to Apex Legends, and on our heavy action benchmark, boom, look at that one. RX 7800 XT still maintains that 35% lead. On our static benchmark, wow, right? So it's definitely stretching itself out at 1440p because the 5060 is a 1080p card. Next hero shooter is Marvel Rivals. We do have upscalers in here, FSR3 for the RX 7800 XT, but we did put it up to ultra quality because we wanted, well, better quality because it's FSR3. And look at this one, boys. The RTX 5060 is actually better compared to the RX 7800 XT. This is probably the first game that the RTX 5060 just crushes the RX 7800 XT. Eldivers 2 now, and the RX 7800 XT maintains that lead of the 5060 on our running benchmark, and which is the same thing on our stratagem benchmark. Let's go to PATFXL 2, and in here, boys, once again, the RTX 5060 is just better here compared to the RX 7800 XT. And on World of Tanks, you still got really good FPS here for both cards at Ultra SD settings, but the RX 7800 XT maintains that lead. I know the RTX 5060 isn't at 4K card, but we're gonna try 4K settings for both of these cards in here. So we'll start with Arc Raiders in here. Now we've got DLSS performance on the RTX 5060, but we've got FSR3 balance on the RTX 7800 XT because we want to compensate for the video quality, and the RX 7800 XT still has that lead. Moving on to Cyberpunk 2077, the same thing. We've got upscalers, but we've got like a better setting here with our RX 7800 XT because it has like worse video quality compared to the DLSS counterpart. And we do have micro stuttering. Well, actually a lot of stuttering in here with our RX 7800 XT, which tends to happen with AMD cards at these settings. And look at that one. The lows are better with the 5060, but the raw FPS does go to the RX 7800 XT. PUBG now, yes, we have 4K, and RX 7800 XT is still better here, right? Obviously, it can do 4K in these this title compared to like 120 FPS with our RTX 5060. World of Tanks at Ultra SD settings, 4K resolution, and it's not actually that high. I was expecting something higher, although this game does favor NVIDIA cards on, especially in these resolution. The RX 7800 XT with its raw performance was able to pull 27% better in terms of average FPS. If we tally everything in here at 1080p, the RX 7800 XT in terms of average FPS is about 24% better against the RTX 5060, 15% better in terms of the 1% lows, and 20% 8% better in terms of the 0.1% lows. The outlier probably in this suite would be Fortnite and Valorant, your competitive games. It would go to the RTX 5060 in terms of the lows. So if you're into those games, the RTX 5060 will be your better option. At 1440p, this is where the strength of the RX 7800 XT with its brute force pushes the RTX 5060. The lead in terms of average FPS is now 34%. In terms of 1% lows, we've got 30% better, and in terms of 0.1% lows, it's about 23% better against the RTX 5060. At 4K, in terms of average FPS, we've got about 30% better in favor to the RX 7800 XT. In terms of 1% lows, the RX 7800 XT will be 21% better compared to the RTX 5060 and about 8% better in terms of the 0.1% lows. Going back to our original question, if you're gonna pick the RTX 5060, would it be practical against the raw performance of the RX 7800 XT? In 1080p, well, yes, the RX 7800 XT is only about like 24% better compared to the RTX 5060, and there are some games in here which actually favor the RTX 5060. So if you're a 1080p gamer, the RTX 5060 is actually not bad in relation to the RX 7800 XT. Although when we move to 1440p, there's a big difference between both of these cards. However, there are some games that will still go to the RTX 5060, like Fortnite and Path of Exile 2 and 4K. You'll probably be better off with the RX 7800 XT if you play 4K, but realistically, you wouldn't be playing 4K with the RTX 5060 anyway, so I just put that there. You do also have to check the power consumption on both of these guys, so you can see that with the 5060, you'll be using about like 150 watts compared to about 280 watts. Now, you also have to consider like the VRAM aspects as well. With the RX 7800 XT, you will have 16 GB of VRAM, which if you want to use some applications that utilize that VRAM capacity, then the RX 7800 XT will be the better card in here. However, if you're just a 1080p gamer, the RTX 5060 will definitely be a better choice for you. But I'd also like to know what you think. Now, we do have the RTX 5060 is about $350, while the RX 7800 XT can go for more than that because of its VRAM. In saying that, there are also other choices in the used marketplace. One of them is the RTX 3070. It only has 8 GB of VRAM, but it's a mid-tier card and still has NVIDIA's feature sets. We actually tested that card against AMD's latest entry-level card, RX 9060 XT 16 GB, in this video. So if you want to see that, I suggest you click this one right here. Just click it.